Joe DiGenova joins us now. Joe, before we get into the FISA issue, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Hillary Clinton demanding a 2-week pause of the Kavanaugh hearing to conduct an FBI investigation.
Well, Mrs. Clinton, of course, once again has come out of the woodwork to waddle her way onto the stage and pretend to be offended by all the things that her husband did many times over many years ago. Mrs. Clinton is the least significant person to be able to talk about this subject, given the way she has treated her husband's female accusers in the past. But that aside, you are watching the calculated, attempted destruction of a Supreme Court nominee by the Senate Democrats with the complicity of people like Hillary Clinton. Mrs. Clinton has long since become an embarrassment to the Republic. Her continued presence on the public stage is offensive to me and to many people, but you can't stop her. She has the right to speak out. As far as this woman who has made these accusations against Mr. Judge Kavanaugh, let's be very, very clear about something. We have no idea what she has said is true. We do not know if it ever happened. We will never know if it ever happened. She doesn't remember where, when, why, how, location, everything. And now her silly lawyers want there to be an FBI investigation before she testifies. This is over. And unless she shows up on Monday to testify, there's going to be a vote, and he's going to be sent to the Senate floor. This is disgraceful. I think Dianne Feinstein should be ashamed of herself, but the Democrats in the Senate are long beyond being ashamed of anything.
Well, again, I have to go back to what Ken Starr, Joe, said on Monday when he came on radio and TV. He thought it was a mistake to engage in any delay of the hearing. He believed, of the vote, excuse me. He thought it should go on Thursday because he said it was obvious what they were doing from the beginning. And when you change everything at the last minute, you just establish a precedent for doing this again. However, weak-kneed Republicans like Jeff Flake and Corker, et cetera, were the ones who were the problem. So, in other words, Grassley had no choice to do what he did. Yeah. Correct?
Yeah. Well, yes, you are absolutely correct. With all due respect to Ken Starr, I love Ken. I've known him for years. He's a lovely guy. His political instincts are non-existent. Believe me, the worst guy they could have ever chosen to be an independent counsel. But that aside, Chairman Grassley did exactly what he had to do, which was give the woman time to immolate herself. And that is exactly what she has done. This was a fraud from the beginning. And Senator Grassley, because he feared the resistance of a member of the committee, Jeff Flake, who could have voted not to vote out Kavanaugh, had to do what he did. And Corker, of course, this little munchkin who, thank God, is leaving the Senate, he would have voted no as well had they not paused to give this woman a chance to hang herself. She has obliged by hanging herself and showing that she never wanted to testify. And this nonsense that she didn't want to become public. Well, why did she take a lie detector test if she didn't want public? I mean, why did she send the letter if she didn't want to become public? This is ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous. She's lying. Everybody around her is lying. And they should roll over these people and have this vote next week.
Yeah, and there's no circumstance under which Kavanaugh will be forced to testify with no allegation raised, right? They're not going to question him. There's no way, right?
No. He's not going to testify by himself to respond to this nonsense. And I can, as much as I am very, very dissatisfied with Republican management of the House and the Senate from an oversight standpoint, they have handled this properly. They've done exactly the right thing to give this woman enough room, along with her lawyers, to hang herself. And that is exactly what she has done.
Joe, as a political matter, do you think this is going to hurt Republicans in the fall? Because they'll try to say, well, you gave this poor woman the bum's rush. She didn't have time to compose herself. She was being threatened, and she had to move out of her house temporarily. And look what you did, and you just rushed this nominee through. I mean, do you think that's actually going to work, or do you think common sense would prevail among the electorate?
Well, here's the problem with that analysis. It's not your analysis, I know, but if they postpone the vote, they will lose the Senate because their base will not turn out. Republicans are sick of Republicans not fighting. And if they were to postpone this vote, I can guarantee you, they will lose the Senate. It's very simple. The base is on a fulcrum between, yes, we want to win, and we want to throw the bums out, and they mean the Republicans. They must not mismanage it. He must be confirmed, and if he is not confirmed, they will lose the Senate.
You know, that's interesting that you brought that up, Joe, because I asked that question, that very question to my callers on Monday, and I think I'd say 70% of them agreed with you. They're just, well, what's the point of even electing Republicans if they're basically going to just sabotage Trump at every turn? And they said that. By the way, this is Eleanor Holmes Norton, one of your favorites, Joe. I know you and she go way back. Don't you have a Thursday coffee clatch together?
Yeah. Yes.
DC delegate in Congress. This is what she said.
I don't see how you could throw her cold into a hearing. It's an almost cruel thing to do with senators, very powerful senators there. No investigation against Kavanaugh, and then have what would amount to a swearing contest between an unknown woman and a candidate for the Supreme Court who has occupied the bench.
Poor accuser. Yeah. So again, you see the narrative they're developing.
Yeah. Well, this is the problem that the woman created, Congresswoman Norton, non-voting delegate Norton. The truth here is that this problem was created by this woman. It has been managed by this woman and her lawyers. It has been mismanaged by them. They started this. This is their problem. I could care less about what she's going to feel like. They have decided that it's okay to ruin the reputation and life of a great man, a man with a wonderful family, a great history, and they have dragged up this filthy lie, and it is a lie. I do not believe this woman. There is nothing that has been brought to the fore to substantiate her allegation. There is no reason to believe her. There is no reason to believe this ever happened, and if the Republicans do not confirm Judge Kavanaugh, I tell you something, I know this to the deep part of my soul. They are going to lose the Senate. And we're talking
to Joe DiGenova here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Of course, former U.S. Attorney, District of Columbia, now works with his brilliant wife, Victoria Tensing, in their own legal practice. Your friend John Brennan was out last night, along with Clap On, Clap Off, Clapper. And Brennan said this about the declassification decision by Donald Trump. Let's listen.
I think it's highly inappropriate and unethical for Mr. Trump to take any action that pertains to the FBI criminal investigation of Russian collusion and cooperation with Russia during the election, of which Mr. Trump and close associates are subjects. So that should not happen, that he would be able to take such an action.
Unethical from John Brennan.
Well, first of all, Mr. Brennan may not realize it because I know he's extremely emotionally unstable since he left the government, and that was reason enough to take away his security clearance because of his emotional instability. But all you have to do is watch him cringing, trying to control his anger. He is a volcano ready to emotionally erupt. He's a very sick man. I'm delighted he's on television making a fool of himself and making everybody who opposes him look good. The President of the United States has the ultimate authority under Article 2 to declassify these documents. And may I say, if Christopher Wray and Rod Rosenstein and the Attorney General resist the President, that, of course, is a firing offense. If they say we're not going to declassify certain sections, unless the President agrees with them, of course, he can overrule them and force the material to be declassified. I think the President has been quite reasonable. He's waited 18 months. The President knows precisely, even though he hasn't read, I'm told, all of the documents, he has been told what is in them. The American people have a right to know, something that Democrats used to be for. But let's remember about Mr. Brennan. He voted for the communists to be President of the United States back in the 70s. Mr. Brennan is a strange duck. He's a weird man. How he ever got to be head of the Central Intelligence Agency is a story out of Kafka, and he is, by all sense and all means, a fundamentally dishonest human being who deserves to be throttled.
Yeah, it's really amazing to think of him especially. Now, setting aside James Clapper for a moment, but John Brennan, given the fact that he lied to the Senate, the U.S. Senate, about the CIA spying on a Senate committee. Remember, he said, "Oh no, we didn't do anything like that," and then it was proven that they did that, and it's like, "Oops, it's outrageous."
Yeah, John Brennan is a known liar, just like Clapper is. The temerity that it takes to do what they have done in the public forum is remarkable. But it is actually a tribute to the corruption of the American media that they have continued to be given some stature. Clapper, of course, impresses me as kind of a dolt who's dumb as a post in many ways, and how he ever got to be DNI is actually quite remarkable. But again, this is the legacy of Barack Hussein Obama, who knew about this, who sanctioned this coup d'etat against President Trump. And I think when the history of this is written, notwithstanding that nobody ever likes to say anything bad about Barack Hussein Obama, history is not going to treat him well.
Joe DiGenova, thank you so much for stopping by. We really, really appreciate it for analysis on the Kavanaugh issue and, of course, the declassification issue. Those documents should be out, we hope, at any moment, and we're looking forward to reading them.